Hey everyone, I'm Cary Smith and I'm sitting here with Amar Shah. And today we're talking about the 5 stages of retirement. And so, Amar, there's a lot to discuss here. So, let me just turn it over to you to kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, I've been an advisor for 20 plus years now, and I've seen thousands of people retire. And, one of the benefits of being an advisor is you can see what people are going through at different stages of their life. And I thought this would be a good topic to discuss to kind of give people some of the benefits of working with an advisor to know what you're going to have to deal with at what stage, but also to kind of highlight a path that one can take and maybe some benefits or some things to look forward to and some things to be aware of, right?
Yeah. And so what's stage one?
Stage one is really happens probably about 5 to 10 years before retirement. It's just that pre-retirement, getting ready, getting all your numbers together, looking at social security information. I kind of use the analogy that this is like my 6 year old at school, right? She is ready for summer break. So, she's on the edge of her seat. She's ready. She's got her backpack on. She knows all the summer camps and what she's going to do. That is really kind of the mindset that people are going through, especially when they're hitting that last year of before they pull the trigger to retire.
Yeah, I love it. That is a great analogy. And, I think for retirees, during this phase, that last 5 to 10 years, they're probably spending a lot of time focused on their IRAs, their 401ks, and other savings that they may have to fund their retirement. One that I find that some people miss is if they have access to an HSA, of fully funding that HSA every year, because that can be a big benefit when they retire. And, another one is maybe spend a little bit of time researching their Social Security benefits if they'll know when they want to receive those and how much they'll receive so they can factor that into their budget and their planning. And then, also the other one that people miss sometimes is they probably spend more time planning their last vacation than they spent planning how am I going to spend, what am I going to do for the next 35 years or however long the retirement is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think proportionately speaking, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second stage is kind of like a sense of liberation or honeymoon, right? That we call it, right? In my analogy of my daughter, right? We don't want to make this an endless summer, right? Yeah, spring break may be too short, but like a good summer break is what we're looking to accomplish here. And really, for most people, that ends up being about 1 to 3 years, right? Where we see an increase in spending. And usually, how we view this in the planning world is that we'll take their basic expenses, their essential expenses, inflate that by 10%, and we'll take their discretionary expenses and inflate that by 30% for the first 3 years. Because you know what? Every day is Saturday, right? And Carrie, you recently quasi retired a couple years back, and then how are you spending your time?
I will tell you, liberation, I think is an appropriate name because you are like that, like summer break just started, right? And
Yeah,
you have this kind of euphoria, this happiness, right? You have less stress in your life. Um, and then you also have energy, right? You have energy to start getting involved in things. But what I also noticed, and you just spoke to this, but some of my expenses went up, not down, because I'm starting to set up my new lifestyle. For me personally, I bought a new road bike, right? So that was a significant expense, just right out of the gate into my retirement. But some people will buy new golf clubs or join a country club or golf membership. Maybe they buy a boat or things of that nature. And so, this isn't a fun and exciting stage, but it does, also require some planning and forethought.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the third stage we like to call rhythm, right? Like if you think of somebody running, you finally get your stride, you get some cadence, you get a routine, some structure to your day. And a lot of times in this phase, you've kind of hit that rhythm, I would say gradually,
Yeah.
and then you find that you're there, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, a lot of times we're working with clients in this stage, really and I guess I would say this is the hardest part of the stage, is to figure out what are you going to do over the next decade, right? So how
Yeah.
do you make the next best decade from this point? Most most people have done all the travel that they've wanted to do. They've visited family, friends. They continue to do that, but how do we create those experiences that when you're 80 years old that you can talk about for the last decade? The last decade we did this. And it could be something with grandchildren, it could be things with other family members, but also you may start a new hobby, you may start something else, but how do you get to that point where you turn your brain from I've accomplished everything that I've wanted to do to hey, I have at least another decade where have the mobility, the flexibility to do other things, the capacity. How do I incorporate that into my experiences?
Yeah, Amar, I think this might actually be the most difficult stage for people as they transition into retirement, because although it's good that you're finding your rhythm, right? You're adjusting to your new lifestyle, your new budget, your new activities, and all of those things are good. But this is also where you start to feel that sense of, but I used to have more power in my life whenever I was a own my own business or a corporate executive or whatever I was before, and I don't have that. I used to have all of this really big network of people, right? In my professional career, now my network is smaller, right? And so there's other adjustments that people are making during this time as well. That I think the best remedy for those is you want to be busy, you want to be physically active, right? Not just for the busyness that provides, but just for the health and the longevity that you can get out of that. And you might want to consider things like volunteering and working part time.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's the next phase. Is that phase 4 is really defined by giving back. So
Yeah.
giving back to the community, giving back to your family. Oftentimes here in that phase, you may be helping out with grandchildren. You may be, you know, looking at your personal financial picture and seeing like, how can I help my kids while I'm alive, while they need help? We often see families helping with, either monthly or tuition or helping with a down payment, for a house, and I think the thing here, Cary, that I've seen from a lot of clients is sometimes fair is not necessarily equal, and
Right.
equal is not necessarily fair. But that occupies a lot of brain space, and going through those type of decisions. How do we do these things in a tax efficient way? That is top of mind.
Yeah. A lot of things from the planning side happen in this stage, and it's important to have a good relationship with someone who can help you with those decisions and that process. But I also think on the personal side, this this is the stage in which you start to feel like you have it figured out.
Yeah,
And this is the stage in which I think retirement starts to be fun, right?
yeah.
And in fact, it might be the stage that as you were in your last working years and you were excited about retirement, this may be the stage when those things that you were dreaming about start to happen on a daily basis.
Yeah. And like we talked about rhythm, but this is actually doing the things that you
Right.
wanted to do, right? So like that when you envision retirement after the honeydew list and all the other travel things, these are you're finally figuring out how to do the things that you want to do and the impact that you want to make. And
That's
that's
right.
what's and then we come to our last stage. And I would say the last stage is probably the most emotionally the most difficult to kind of digest because it deals with the loss of independence, right? And one can argue you're losing independence throughout. It's like a continuum. This is really the last 30% of independence, right? So when
Mhm.
we talk about activities of daily living, um, and just needing more help, I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, my wife and I have been living with in this stage in dealing with her mom who's been receiving care and unfortunately passed away recently. But it's but it you know, if there's a upside to that for us, it gets you very present to how difficult this stage can be and how important the planning process is for when you are in this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have this next decade workbook. If you go to clientfirstcap.com, you can download it from the resource library. And I oftentimes find in this last stage of life when I'm working with clients that are in their, let's just call it 87 or older.
Hmm.
You know, our oldest client that I've ever worked with up until a couple of years ago was 103.
Oh my gosh.
Currently, we're working with a 93-year-old. Um, and oftentimes the stories that they talk about and the things that you remember is the last decade, right? So if you think about that, the hardest time to get somebody to kind of do things is really in like 65 to, or let's say 70 to 75, 80, because they've done all the travel and all the things they wanted to do. But the memories you have are that you're talking about the most really start from 70, right? Like late 70s to 80s, right? So
Yeah.
that's a really important workbook. You can go to our website and download it. And I think it's an exercise well worth doing. Putting pen to paper is really good for planning perspective.
Hey, Amar, I think this was a really good discussion, and I think there were several points in there that we could, highlight, double underline, bold, right? But each of the five steps I think are important. But equally important is you cannot wait until you're in that step to start the planning process. You need to be thinking about each step before it gets here,
Yeah,
right? And that's where I think planning comes in, and the process of working with someone to have the right plan in place.
absolutely. Why don't you take us home, Cary?
Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in and with Amar and I. If you feel like you could benefit from our best next decade brochure, go to our website for that. Also, if you'd like to have a plan or have a consultation with a professional, feel free to reach out as well. And you can sign up for our newsletter to get some information on some important topics, financial topics.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Mar.
Bye.